Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and here I have tens of thousands of burdock fruit. Look at that. If you have ever been a child or a childish teenager or a childish adult, you know that those can be a staple of childish practical jokes. Well, first, to clarify some botanical terms, actually every single of those things, well, a few of them are still flowering. Well, this is not a single flower, this is an inflorescence, and when it ripens, it releases a lot of those little fruit. So each of those balls is basically an inflorescence, and when you tear off this inflorescence, you see that it already sticks to your hand. Yeah, and then you can basically stick it to somebody else's clothes. We had epic battles when we were little children with those things. Well, some, especially the girls, were more patient. They would collect dozens upon dozens of those and make little baskets or other nice things out of them. Well, we used to pelter each other with those things, and yeah, when they started falling apart and released those itchy hairs, it was even more fun. Well, not for the victim, but for the one who was throwing them. I was pretty good at that. But very few people in Europe nowadays know that there was a time when this was not only a staple for childish practical jokes, but also for human consumption. In Asia, even now, they have huge fields of burdock. They plant it, they cultivate it, and they harvest it for food. So what do you eat about the burdock? The most important part is the root. The root is big and starchy. At a time when we didn't have potatoes and all the other modern starchy tubers, it was actually one of the most important starchy tubers in Europe. And in Asia, where they of course have potatoes and sweet potatoes and a ton of other starchy tubers, they still use the roots because, yeah, I guess they like more diversity, and the taste of burdock is very different. I tried burdock roots only once, but this was during a survival class I organized, and I ate a lot of things on that day for the first time, and after that I had a horrible aftertaste in my mouth for a whole day. I associate that aftertaste now with burdock roots, but I'm not sure if it comes from the burdock roots. So if somebody has information on that, if somebody has eaten burdock roots and got a horrible aftertaste in their mouth, I would like them to share their experiences. Well, the roots are the most important part because they are the biggest, starchiest part. The leaves are quite bitter, so yeah, they might be good for consumption for some Asian, African or Australian cultures who like bitter vegetables, but for the Europeans the leaves are not very interesting. You can use the leaf stalks, the plant stalks, also the flower stalks, but early, basically in May, you use the young plants. Now in July, when the fruit are already well developed and ripening, well, there is basically nothing tender enough on the plant to use it as a leafy or, yeah, as a vegetable. Basically the stems and the leaf stalks, you can cook them like asparagus more or less, but not that late in the year. But this is a fruit channel, and the fruits are ripe. And as you could see when I tore this thing apart, well, here you can see the itchy hairs, and also tons and tons of quite big spotted fruit. And actually, if you harvest like only those inflorescences from those like 20 feet or 6 or 7 meters here, you would get a couple dozen kilograms or probably over 100 pounds, maybe even 200 pounds of those practical jokes here. Well, when you wait till they are ripe enough, and then, oh come on, this is definitely not ripe enough, and then extract those big seeds, you will end up with hundreds of thousands of those seeds, which, like most seeds, are very rich in oil. So basically you can crush the seeds, and then you can squeeze them through an oil mill, and from this small patch here you can actually harvest several bottles of oil, which is quite nice for human consumption. And in a time, let's say in the Middle Ages or even in antiquity or in the Stone Age, a couple bottles of plant oil harvested from the wild are nothing to be sneezed on. And back then, on fallow fields and so, they sometimes had much bigger patches where you could actually in one day harvest, well, dozens of liters of oil with if you had your whole family helping you. Dozens of liters of plant oil, they can bring you through a harsh winter. So this was quite an important plant, and I don't know why in Europe in the last 500 years, when they introduced lots of new fruits and vegetables and grains from overseas, we forgot the use of a lot of those traditional things. However, in Asia, nowadays they have access to basically the same exotic fruits and vegetables and greens like us, but they are still using a much bigger variety of their traditional local native stuff. Like, for example, the burdock. I've never seen it being grown or used anywhere in Europe, but I was told that in Japan and in Korea, yes, fields of burdock are actually nothing unusual, and you find the roots and the young leaf stalks and stuff on markets. So tell me, folks, why do Europeans, as soon as they get some new and fancy exotic vegetable like the potato, they forget about the nice burdock roots? And why do the Asians, while of course adapting all the tasty new fruits and vegetables, why do they still hang on to their old traditional stuff and use both together? I think the Asian way is much more clever than what we Europeans do. I can only imagine what we have forgotten, how many uses of wild plants we have forgotten over the last centuries. And I'm trying to research that and experiment and reconstruct as much of this use as possible. But it's hard. Well, in Asia, they never gave up the use of this stuff. Clever Asians. So folks, this was the burdock, a practical joke and also a staple food, unfortunately not anymore in Europe. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful city of Heidelberg. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.